Good morning. Yes, that's the spirit of partners. Okay, so now if you think about digital transformation, or what we at IDC love to call DX for short, this has been a mega trend over the last 3 years or so. Now, however, when we look at customers, we look at channel partners, and I would even extend it to some of the technology vendors, we're actually seeing a minority pool of DX leaders, not only in the Asia Pacific region, but all over the world. Now, the good news is that there has actually been accelerated progress over the last 6 to 9 months. And one of the data points that I want to share with you just very quickly is that at IDC, we actually launched our DX Awards program, a program to recognize customers for their digital transformation efforts, the strategy that they put in place, the projects that have reaped very successful business benefits and business outcomes. We launched it at the beginning of 2017, so that was last year. And last year, we had 250 nominations across the Asia Pacific region. We actually just closed off nominations for 2018, and we will be releasing the results around the September-October timeframe. And I just actually called one of my colleagues last night to just get a count. And this year, we actually doubled in terms of nominations. So we have seen definitely an accelerated progress as far as digital projects and investment in DX. However, as I say, it's still a minority. And why are we seeing a minority of DX leaders? Now, IDC, we started research and looking into organizations, helping them with a strategy and a planning for DX, and then tracking them about 4.5 years ago. So within this about 4+ years time frame, we have actually captured more than 4,000 organizations, large organizations, as well as mid-sized organizations, public and private sector organizations all over the world. In APJ region, we have slightly over 2,500 in that database. And we track them, and what we found over the last 9 months is this one very significant theme. And in my next slide, I will elaborate deeper into that. 62% of these organizations in our region are currently what we call digitally stuck. Now, when I say that they are digitally stuck, I don't mean that they are not making investments. They are, in fact, actually working on digital projects. They are making some progress. But the change that they are making is not significant enough to actually move their DX needle holistically across the entire organization. And that is one of the biggest challenges that we see in the marketplace. And therefore, we believe that between now and the end of 2019, the majority of the efforts are really to try to unlock themselves in this situation. And that beyond that, innovation will be realized, and therefore by 2022, and this is for APJ region, 40% of organizations' revenue will actually come from digital offering services as well as experiences. And by, in a 10-year time frame, we believe that 3/4 of the organizations in our region will be digitally transformed. And obviously, at that point, we no longer talk about digital transformation because transformation becomes business as usual. So let's look at what are these digital deadlocks. There are 5 of them that we have recognized. 96% of organizations in our region that are currently stuck have at least 2 of these deadlocks that they are experiencing today. So they're trying to figure out how can they unlock themselves, and this is where your opportunities. I'm going to quickly go through because this slide alone can take me 2 hours to present if I go deep into each of the 5 areas. But to just give you an understanding of what these 5 DX deadlocks are, so let me just quickly explain to you each of them. So the very first, and this is not in any order of priority or major challenge or importance, the first is outdated KPIs. What we have actually found is a lot of organizations, either they don't have KPIs for digital transformation, Or if they have KPIs for digital transformation, the KPIs are basically traditional metrics: revenue, market share, productivity, cost reduction, profitability. Now, some of you might look, I say, these are very important numbers for C-suite and board of directors, definitely, without a doubt. And we don't mean that they are bad KPIs. They are important KPIs because obviously they track how your company actually, or how your customer's organization performs. But these KPIs alone cannot effectively help to accelerate digital transformation journey. Some of the newer KPIs that we talk about, for example, Net Promoter Score, the commercialization rate of innovation. You don't just focus on the number of innovative ideas, but you focus on commercialization rate of those innovative ideas. A company with 5,000 innovative ideas in a quarter doesn't necessarily translate to better digital transformation in terms of achieving goals as compared to a company who only have 50 innovative ideas. If the company with 50 innovative ideas can actually result in new revenue streams, more customer acquisition, cost reduction, improving productivity, is far more effective in the way that they actually play and win in this economy. The second is DX organization, and here we talk about silo, and this is quite common that you hear whereby IT and business don't really work well, and even among the different business units, they are very siloed, they make their own decision. And we always say that for digital transformation to effectively work, it must be able to scale throughout the organization. A very, very successful DX project on its own can only have so much benefits for the company. The third, tactical roadmaps. A lot of technology vendors, and including some of you, would throw basically proof of concepts to your customers. And I always tell CIOs and customers that even if proof of concepts are free of charge and provided to you by the vendor community and the partner community, you are still using your resources and time, right? And we all know that time, you can never buy time, you can never regain back time. And that these are all opportunity costs. So tactical roadmaps and tactical use cases becomes an issue. You need to actually connect them to be able to link to DX strategy for the company and to be able to achieve those business goals. Limited expertise. Now, even before we talk about digital transformation in the tech world, we've always actually look at this and say, this is a problem, right? We started with cloud. There was a lot of expertise, lack of expertise in the cloud space, and then in the mobility space, and then in the big data science, and now obviously artificial intelligence, IoT, and blockchain. So that has actually continued. In fact, that has accelerated because the pace of DX is extremely quick and extremely high. And the last, but certainly not the least, silos of innovation. Now, this is very critical. I talk about the commercialization rate of innovation because most companies actually focus on innovative ideas. You need to be able to break out from this and to be able to track not only the number of ideas that your organizations and your ecosystem are able to generate, but also how rapid those prototyping is, market testing, how IT hand over the business units, and to be able to roll out those new innovative ideas, products, services, and experiences for your customers, and to be able to track them. Now, I'm going to share with you some data points, but before we get into that, I thought it would be good to kind of get a sense from you. You talk to customers, I hope on a daily basis, and look at basically think about the last 6 months, the conversations that you had with your customers, and those 5 digital deadlocks, and basically identify which of the DX deadlock basically has the highest priority, or you hear the most among your customers today and over the last 6 months. To help me with the polling, because it's the first time we're doing that with the app, I'm going to have the MC to assist me.
Okay, guys, please, you've downloaded the app, right? So all you need to do is click on the app. Once you're on the app, you will notice that, of course, you have all the various agendas. Click onto Overall Agenda. Overall Agenda, it will open up and, of course, show, of course, today's plenary sessions. What you need to do, you look at, of course, Sandra's presentation at 10:30 a.m., Partner Monetization in the DX Economy. You click on that. And then you see on there will be a polling tab. You click onto the polling tab to participate. It will show you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Stand by. Now back to you, Sandra. This is, of course, our audience live polling. All yours.
Okay, thank you. You have to choose one of the 5 outdated KPIs first. Second, silo DX initiatives. We talk about silo organizational structure. 3, tactical roadmaps, those use cases. 4, limited expertise. These can be technology as well as business skill sets. And then 5, silos of innovation. So we're going to start the polling right now. You have 15 seconds to actually put in the one that you hear the most from your customers today and over the last 6 months. Okay, limited expertise is number 1. Siloed DX initiatives or organizational structure is number 2. And then followed by silos of innovation. It's kind of interesting. Now, our research shows that the number 1, basically the number 1 DX deadlock is the first outdated KPIs, and that is actually related to change management. 78% of organizations out there, when they look at digital transformation, they look at all the barriers, and what is actually slowing them down is change management. And when you think about KPIs really shape new behavior, the behavior that your organization and senior management would want basically for the rest of the organizations. Change management is the number 1. It has technology implications. It also has non-technology implication. Okay, so how do we overcome some of these deadlocks, and what does it really mean for you in the partner world when you think about professional IT skills, professional cloud skills? So the first thing is we believe that by the end of 2019, 60% of digital services will fail to meet desired customer adoption levels. Now, the main reason is because a lot of time when we look at the digital services and the apps that organizations put in front, they actually don't consider the customer journey in a holistic fashion. Most of the time, your customers would think about one element of the customer journey. They would think about certain type of customers. They would think about certain experience of customers, but they don't actually think about the holistic customer journey. Now, we have done tons of research. Every time when I run workshops for customers, I would ask them 2 questions. The first question is, who are your customers today? And 99% of the time, they can answer it very well, perfect score, and very consistently across the organization. But the follow-on question is, who do you think your customers will be in 3 years, in 5 years, and in 7 years' time, depending on kind of what is their timeline they're looking at from a digital transformation perspective? The large majority will fall apart. They will not be able to answer this, or they will say, the most common is, well, it will be the same as today. And it's not necessarily the case. And this is because they don't think about customer journey. So especially when you do Omni Experience and CX projects, it's important to first ask your customer to think through their customer journey in a holistic fashion. Very quickly, you will notice actually gaps, and those gaps becomes opportunities for you because those will be the challenges that they need to actually deal with. The second one that I want to quickly talk about is 70% of organizations engaged in DX efforts will be struggling to translate business needs into IT investment. Now, you actually have talked about basically the lack of expertise. And I guess the main reason is because the customers that you deal with, the daily customers you deal with are IT people, right? And these are the practitioners within the organizations. And most of the time, when you speak to the practitioners, especially in the IT department, and to some extent in the business units, and then when you go into the C-level and the senior management and the leadership team, you will realize that they actually have very different narratives. Completely different narratives. Typically, when I talk to technology suppliers and partners, they will say, Sandra, the number one reason companies are looking at digital transformation is cost reduction. That statement itself is not wrong. But when you go to senior level management, I'll give you two examples. You go to DBS Bank, they'll be talking about cost to serve. And that is cost reduction. But the senior Piyush Gupta is thinking about cost to serve. When you look at the financial report for DBS, that's what they talk about. When you go to Australia and talk to Telstra, and Andy would talk about, net promoter score, right? And at the end of the day, it's about cost reduction. That's a very important element to that. But when you get to the CEO and you get to the board of directors, you get to the CFO of Telstra, they will be talking about NPS. And you, as channel partners, will need to translate individual IT projects and IT programs to those high-level narratives, because those are the matrix and those are the key points and those are the key data that they are looking for. And then if you're able to achieve, that's where the ROI kicks in, and that's where they will be interested to talk about the next project. The third data point that I want to quickly talk about is this 55%. Heavy workload demands of next generation applications and new IT architecture in critical business facilities will force 55% of organizations to modernize their data center assets. One of the things that we also notice, and this is quite common when we get questioned, is you are dealing with IT folks. So it's very common that they talk about cloud infrastructure, they talk about data center facilities. But when you talk about business unit stakeholders, they don't really care about infrastructure. They don't even think about that. But recently, in recent times, when we speak to business unit managers and they start to look at AI and IoT projects and even, in some cases, blockchain projects, we then realize that they quickly figure out that actually their infrastructure environment, their cloud environment, their IT environment is not modernized and ready to support some of these projects. And as a result, they actually have to stop and then to relook at their infrastructure environment. And that is something that we have actually begun to see over the last 9 months with regards to business unit heads. So that's something that I want to call out, which is extremely important when you think about opportunities in your space. So if I were to limit just to CIOs and IT departments, which the large majority, if not all of you, kind of talk to and interact with on a regular basis, it all boils down to 3 key objectives. They could be looking at tons of different projects, right? Very small projects, very large projects. There are 3 key consistent goals of CIOs today in order to help them either to survive or to win in the DX economy. The first is experiential engagement. It doesn't matter you're dealing with business to consumer or business to business brand, they all talk about customer experience, omni experience. So the ability to delight customer is a very important goal. In fact, most organizations, when they started in their DX journey, they will look at experiential engagement as their number 1 priority, the first goal that they try to hit. And this is an important goal to hit, right? And it's an ongoing journey. The second is data monetization. And here it's not just about extracting data to make faster and better decision making, but this is really about how you can harness data to generate new revenue streams and to create digitally enhanced products and services. We have begun to see a very aggressive investment and interest coming from financial services industry, including both banks and insurance providers. We have also seen from telecommunications industry as well as the retail industry. So these are the top 3 industries today that are most aggressive in looking at data monetization. And then the last, but certainly not the least, digital business at scale. This is typically the favorite for IT, and it's kind of more the comfort zone for IT because you're dealing with the infrastructure environment. This can be cloud, this can be hybrid cloud, this can be non-cloud. And here it is important because if you are able to achieve digital business at scale, shadow IT is no longer relevant, and it will no longer be present within the organization. So, which is why because of those 3 goals and those 3 common goals that we see regardless of industry and geographies that organizations compete in, IDC have actually gone out to the marketplace at the beginning of this year and talk about this future technology architecture, which is what we call the DX platform. Now, this DX platform essentially has kind of 4 specific elements that we talk about. First is really the intelligent core, and that's where data services are basically interacting within the organizations as well as with the ecosystem. The second is really about engagement services, and that's where we're talking about engagement with customers through mobile apps, through APIs, as well as the partner ecosystem. The third is really about developer or development services, and this is where Agile DevOps come into play. And last is orchestration and management services, as well as integration, where you need to bring it all together. Now, we believe that this is important, and cloud is really the underlying foundation for the DX platform, because if you are able to actually execute this well, you will get a modern IT cloud-enabled platform that is able to achieve 3 goals: agility, modularity, and autonomy. And those are the 3 key elements for IT to be able to enable and support their business unit partners and to be able to accelerate their digital transformation journey. This is going to be critical. Now, no organization, no customers today have achieved this yet. This is brand new in the marketplace. And this is important because the last 10 years, there's a lot of focus on bimodal IT or two-speed IT. And bimodal IT and two-speed IT creates a lot of issue because you have 2 different speeds within the environment, and they are not integrated. Remember, one of the key elements or success factors of digital transformation is the ability to scale. If you want to scale your environment, your platform must be able to allow integration and orchestration. This is part and parcel. This is the ABC of any digital environment in this economy, which is why DX platform with these 4 elements. Now, depending on your customer, not every customer will give equal weightage and importance to all the 4 layers, right? For some of the customers in the B2C brand, for example, data services, engagement services are going to be far more important than the majority of the B2B brands out there. So really depending on kind of the industry and the marketplace that they play in, the different layers will have different weightage, will have different importance. Now, the companies who have started this journey, just to give you an idea of who we're talking about: Aviva, insurance company; Ping An, which is the other Chinese insurance company; DBS Bank; IKEA, as well as Changi Airport from Singapore. These are just some of the 5 of the examples that have already begun their DX platform journey, and that they are in their roadmap. They definitely have these 4 layers, and these 4 are going to be very important for their organizations to actually compete successfully in the DX economy. Now, before I show you the video, I want to highlight one important thing: that why are we talking about DX platform? DX platform is able to achieve and deliver those 3 key objectives of CIOs: experiential engagement, data monetization, digital business at scale. That's really the first and primary reason why we created this future technology architecture, and why we believe that this is actually important to your customers. The second thing that is equally important is that when you think about digital disruption, every successful digital disruption involves a new business model. Every single one is a new business model, which means that when you think about your customers, they are all trying to figure out what new business and operating models should they create and adopt in order to help them to win in this DX economy. So in this example, this is actually from Alibaba, and I don't know if you're from China, you would have heard of this, the Hema supermarket. Outside of China, I'm not sure how many of you have heard of this. This is Alibaba's new retail concept, or one of the new retail concepts. Basically, this supermarket itself has, it's like your regular supermarket. It sells the same stuff, except that this supermarket has a lot of technology, a lot of digital elements. So you could, for example, use the app, the QR code, and you're able to scan the barcode and be able to know where that particular product was shipped from, originally from, the ingredients of the products, information like this. So there's a lot of digital knowledge that is actually embedded in this environment. In this supermarket, you also have basically a restaurant that would actually cook the food that you buy from the supermarket, which is just a different experience that Alibaba want to bring to the marketplace. What is most important that I want to highlight is the delivery service. So for Hema Supermarket, they are able to deliver fresh produce to homes within 3 kilometers of their supermarket. 30 minutes within 3 kilometers. The closest competitor, as we all know, is Amazon. Amazon today is only able to do it in 2 hours in the United States. But of course, when you look at Amazon Gold, they have a lot of technology. They use a lot of machine learning and AI in their new supermarkets in Seattle, US, which they just opened up at the beginning of this year. But what Alibaba is able to do is through technology and the whole operation system, in the process, they're able to deliver fresh produce in 30 minutes. And I know for a fact that they are beginning to look at opening up Hema supermarkets outside of China. One of the side benefits from the Hema supermarkets, from what we have seen in China, is every time a Hema supermarket is open, within that 3 kilometers, the property market jumps up very quickly. So you want them to come to your hometown, isn't it? So with that, please roll the video.
It's not every day that you see Jack Ma at the grocery store. That's because this isn't just any grocery store. This is Hema Supermarket, and it's Alibaba's entry into what the company calls new retail. I'm at a Hema supermarket in Shanghai. This was the first of what are now 13 locations in China, and it's been open for 18 months. For Alibaba, this is the best example yet of the merger of online and offline shopping. Hema uses technology and data to provide a seamless and more efficient shopping experience for consumers. For starters, everything at Hema is powered by mobile. You download the app, and then you use your phone to shop. For example, Hema is all about fresh foods from all over the world. But how would you know? Everything in the store has a barcode. You use the app to scan the code, and you get a ton of great information about the product. Hema will even make recommendations of similar products based on what you have in your hands. These are exactly the Washington cherries that I was looking for. This is perfect. One of the biggest attractions in Hema is its seafood section. That's because in China, there's a long tradition of hand-picking the freshest seafood for consumption. And at Hema, that means you don't even have to wait until you get home to eat. You can have it cooked for you right here in the store, just like Jack Ma did.
This is our first time coming here after work. The place is quite big, clean, and bright. And we pick the food together, and then we eat it together. The food here, the seafood, the mushrooms, they are fresh and they're delicious, and we enjoy the time. Yeah.
Now, for all the convenience of shopping in person at a Hema supermarket, some of the best innovations were delivered online. See, these stores also serve as fulfillment centers. Customers place orders through the app, and then workers run around the store collecting items for delivery. Each store serves a radius of about 3 kilometers, about 1.5 miles, and they can serve thousands of orders a day, each within 30 minutes. Here's how it works. Each employee has a scanner and a delivery bag with a unique barcode on it. That barcode corresponds with a specific order. After they finish packing their orders, they drop the bags off here. When I'm ready to check out, I use the Hema app, which is linked to my Alipay account. Hema is also a membership club. If I join, the app remembers all of my purchases so it can personalize and improve my shopping experience the next time around. I can't wait to see how they try to entice me back here. But honestly, I don't think it's going to be too hard.
Thank you. Okay, so from a monetization perspective, I talk a lot about the DX platform, and I talk about cloud being a key enabler. So let me just show you where we believe the opportunities as we have been tracking the cloud market for quite some time. Now, the first thing is, let's look a little bit longer term in kind of the next 3 years. By the end of 2021, you'll be able to see that 1/4 of basically the applications and the environments that we see enabled by cloud is going to be at the edge. Now here is because we're going to see a lot more sensors, obviously the pickup in terms of IoT. We've seen that now even in Indonesia, in Malaysia, as well as in the advanced markets for Asia Pacific region. Now when we include private cloud infrastructure spending from your customers, by the same year, we will see more than $100 billion for Asia Pacific, including Japan region. We obviously have it by country. This is a basically consolidated number that we have for the entire region. And because of this increasing focus and investments around AI and machine learning, 15% will actually be specialized compute as we classify them, and we'll see more and more this high-performance computing, especially in kind of the banking sector, in the insurance sector, as well as some of the large government, and definitely in the top 2 and 3 telcos for each of the geographies that we see in our market. Now, I'm not obviously going to go through all these different numbers. You will receive a copy of the slide deck, so don't panic, don't worry. You want to take pictures, that's not a problem. This is just to show you basically where the spending numbers, we had the actual numbers for 2017. This is annual, all in US dollars. And then we have our estimate for the rest of the year, 2018, and then of our forecast for the next 2 years. If you look at all the numbers, if you add AP as well as Japan, the annual growth rate for cloud, and here we actually exclude infrastructure of cloud, so in a private environment. So this is all public cloud, hosted, private, so third-party hosted, so all your hosters and managed service providers, as well as professional IT services for cloud. If you add all of them, the annual growth rate is more than 30% in the next 2 years. So this is very significant because when you look at IT spending growth in our region, it's about 3 to 5.5%. And it depends on what country you're in, right? So we're talking a 5 to 8 times higher in terms of growth rate when you look at all of this cloud services spending that we are projecting for the next 2 years, with actuals for 2017 as well as prior. Now, there are a number of examples that we have seen, and there are tons. I mean, it's more than 70, our research shows that more than 70% of organizations out there are already deploying cloud, right? Public cloud and hybrid cloud and private cloud. So more than 70%. The question is obviously the dollar value, which I've shown in the previous slide. But what are some of the examples, some of the things that we are seeing in terms of cloud wins in the marketplace? Now, if you're from Singapore, where I'm based, you will know NTUC Income. This is a government-linked insurance provider. And again, if you're from Singapore, you would have heard the recent months, we talk a lot about insurance claims, that especially for hospitalization and healthcare, there's actually a lot of abuse, and that, you know, a lot of people who actually buy hospitalization plans are actually going to hospitals and staying for more days than they should, going for more surgeries than they should, going for private hospitals, and now the claims are very high. And basically all the major insurers in Singapore are actually making a loss. And so they're changing some of the regulation, and NTUC Income is one of the entities that are also bombarded with all these different claims. And what they have recently done is going to a cloud environment to automate their processing. And this automation not only helped them in terms of productivity rate, it also helped them in terms of talent retention. Very few people today want to work in the kind of very mundane and manual and a lot of work where it requires a lot of paperwork. So one of actually the positive side effect of this adoption and this project for NTUC Income is, as a result, they were able to retain more people within the environment, and the turnover rate is actually not very high. Other examples that we've seen across the region, Westpac, they've recently basically adopted platform as a service to enable pretty much across all of the business units, the different applications. So for them, the number one factor is agility. They want to be able to up the agility, the speed to market with new kind of financial services and financial products to the marketplace. And that's the reason why they went into platform as a service, combining actually with cognitive and AI technology. Second is a South Korean example, Lotte. Again, if you're from South Korea, you will be familiar with this. Now, if you go to Lotte's shopping centers in South Korea and Seoul in particular, and when you shop around, especially for us women, right, we pick up a lot of stuff and then we tried it on and we decide to buy a lot of things and it's very heavy to carry. Now you don't actually have to pick up all of them. You can basically, there is an application that you use that using your mobile phone, you can actually say which are the ones that you want. They can deliver all of your shopping products to back to your home at a time that you want it. Or you can actually put into a smart locker and then you can go shopping somewhere else. You can have your food and come back and do this. So that's a new kind of experience that they're offering to their customers. The next is Ping An Insurance. And Ping An Insurance recently had a major IPO out of Hong Kong for their Good Doctor healthcare application. While the IPO wasn't as successful as they had originally, at least in terms of the initial offering price, but Ping An is definitely an up-and-coming. If you are based in Hong Kong, you will know this. Every Hong Kong-based insurer will talk about Ping An. They are so afraid of Ping An, and what they care about today is, I want to be able to protect my territory in Hong Kong before I even thinking about branching and expanding aggressively into mainland China. Now, Ping An is not the largest insurance provider today if you look at based on premiums, based on dollars and revenue that they generated, but they are the most valuable insurance brand in the world. And they only started a few years ago in terms of their aggressiveness in digital transformation. Last and certainly not the least example is UEM. This is a construction kind of highway operator, property developer in Malaysia. And when you talk to the CIO, one of his pet projects in recent time is data monetization. Because as you can imagine, right, when you operate all the different toll stations at highways, you'll be collecting a lot of data, especially where they're putting a lot of digital payments and smart card payment systems. And as they're collecting all this data, they begin to realize that they actually have a very good understanding of not only traffic from a congestion and traffic management perspective, but also understanding of where commercial, residential development should be, even the rest stops, right? The F&Bs, if you drive, long distance in Malaysia, you will see all the different F&B outlets and rest stops. They'll be able to actually better manage in terms of operating hours, in terms of the kind of shops and the kind of stores that they should put in place in the different rest stops and different parts of Malaysia. And so UEM is beginning to collect all this data, make sense of this data, and to try to sell to other property developers and part of their ecosystem to produce this as one of the new revenue streams for the organization. So when you think about those four examples, NTUC Income, you think about kind of the three key goals: experiential engagement, data monetization, digital business at scale. They're all business outcomes. What are some of the narratives that we've been hearing in the marketplace? Now, I have to warn you, these are the narratives from the DX leaders. So they are very cutting edge, very advanced. But I thought if I showed you the very cutting edge, the very high benchmark, it gives you an understanding. It's very difficult to achieve, but it gives you an understanding of where you should work towards, the kind of conversation and engagement that you and your team should have as you move up, the seniority within your customer base. So the first is the CIO of an electronics manufacturing company, and here they focus a lot on business outcomes. Now, he say that, every IT project that they do, and when the team comes to him and asks for approval, and he would say, is this going to drive top line, which is revenue? Is this going to drive bottom line, which is profit? Or is this going to be managing some kind of risk for the organizations? If the IT individual or project manager is not able to articulate in at least one of these three forms, then it's not good. So I think this CIO is very progressive, right? It thinks about business outcome. The second is from an educational institution. And in education, we always say, it's very traditional and very, very old school. But this is one of the DX leaders that we found in the marketplace. And whereby they actually talk about customer experience. They talk about the experience of the student. They actually have KPIs that directly measure and look at the experience of the students, the pass-out rate, as well as how quickly can their graduates actually get jobs in the marketplace, the salary, the kind of companies that they work for, and things like that. The third is the CIO of a high-tech production company. And because this is high-tech production, there's a lot of focus around innovation. And from a CIO perspective, it's very progressive, right? Because in our region, we still have a lot of CIOs who are very operational in nature. And this is one of those CIOs who's very cutting edge and says, we need to always push the envelope and look at how innovative we should be as an organization. And then the last is the CIO of a F&B company. Again, F&B is also one of those laggards typically from an industry standpoint, but this is a very progressive one that they talk about is very business-facing front and very service-oriented. This is a CIO who totally appreciate digital business at scale. This is the kind of narratives that you need to understand and you need to get from your customers to be able to then speak to the senior people, to be able to show the ROI for the projects that you want to deliver. So what is it in it for you as a channel partner? There are three very simple takeaways that I would like you to have. First, take an outcome-based approach. I know this is not a new topic. This is not a new point. And it sounds very simple. But the majority of you struggle with this. When you think about business outcome, like I said at the very beginning of my presentation, most of you talk about cost reduction, talk about savings. You need to figure out what are those narratives. Is it NPS, like in the case of Telstra? Is it cost to serve, like in the case of DBS Bank? Digital transformation creates challenges, it creates opportunity, it drives change. What you want from your customer is the motivation to change. Because if there is motivation to change, there is an opportunity for you. That's really critical. You need to find that motivation within the organization. And the next 2 years, there's going to be a lot of focus on unlocking the DX deadlocks that I talk about. And third, selling cloud. I think the two earlier speakers talk a lot about that. It's no longer a differentiator. You need to, and cloud is an enabler. At IDC, we talk about cloud as one of the pillars, but we always say pillars is kind of vertical. It should actually be horizontal because it cut across everything. It's an enabler, and that you need to go out and talk about, experiential engagement, data monetization, the ability to deliver digital at scale using cloud as the foundation to do that. So with that, thank you very much for your attention. Enjoy the rest of the conference, and I'll see you guys around.